Well, we go to Chattooga all the time, so we.
Oh, do you? Okay.
So we have that land on the lake with a dock, a double dock, a grill on top of it, blah, blah, blah. And then about a mile and a half away, my in-laws have a house that looks over the lake.
Oh,
And so,
that works out well.
yeah, we go all the
See, I
time.
grew up in Marshall.
We were supposed to be building 10 years ago. We've really stayed our adult children living in the basement way over. But, yeah, they had two houses on either side of themselves.
I think.
And they both went in
I don't know.
a couple of days for 10 to 15 over asking.
You
So,
know, well, because it's a availability issue, but it's also, I think, an affordability issue right now.
so
Because you just can't get on, like, you know, there's just hard. It's
I
like-
do some work up there.
Do you?
And then I sold a cabin to somebody who it doesn't have a lake view, but it's a very pretty mountain view.
Looks like
They
about
bought
10.
it for like 5 years ago for 200,
Three.
and it's gonna list for like 435.
And with the link that went out a half hour ago, so I'll fetch more.
I hear
But
Oh, yeah.
between you and
They
me,
just don't get far ourselves.
I'm a little concerned with the boat traffic on Lake Chattooga.
Yeah.
And do you know where the fairgrounds are?
Yeah.
So we're right in that
That's
coast,
in your
and,
Fieldstone.
and we're feeling, it's, yeah, a little farther than Fieldstone. My in-laws house is right behind Fieldstone.
Oh, nice.
And,
It was a lot.
so I just feel like the crazy driving factor has gotten a lot worse. And I don't know
That's
if
what I
that's
really like
COVID,
about Blue Ridge is it's just
quiet, yeah.
literally the 4th of July is the only time anyone's out there. Maybe Memorial Day,
Uh-huh.
and that's it. I mean, it is like the last.
Yeah.
That lake is just, there's no waves. It's perfect. And it's not a big lake. It's not huge, not compared to like Chattooga or not a lot.
That's, well, yeah, but usable,
No,
you know,
right,
yeah,
No, I get it.
which is also a thing with like Weiss, because it's so shallow.
Yep, that's right.
And I'm like,
Have you looked at, Huey? Yes.
isn't that really super pricey?
I think there's still some afford, I mean, you can get something under $1 million. That's
You know,
big.
I live right here.
You
I
know,
live in-
Lon has one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every closing we talk about boats and stuff.
Yeah.
I live right here. I don't love
Going over to,
over
that's the
there.
reason I.
I
like
just
shooting
bought-
straight up across the-
I bought something on Lanier for a friend of mine, and like every time I was driving there, I thought it was like death defying.
It is.
There's somebody going 130 miles per
I
hour,
don't disagree at all.
and I have, 3 kids, so it's
Right,
like,
I get it,
They're
575 is a straight shot, especially that express lane now.
so
I don't know, getting some people online.
I'll see how bad the shallowness is. I mean, it's good to go see like kind of at its ugliest.
Huey, it never drops,
Mhm,
and it is a power lake, so it's like sand bottom, it's
mhm,
man-made,
mhm,
so it's really nice. I said that would be to me if I didn't have Blue Ridge, I'd go there.
mhm.
Even though I don't care for that drive, but it is a very neat drive.
I mean, they're talking, I think about 200 $200 a square foot to build. And it's probably, so it's like 1.7. And I'm like,
That's not much. Probably be smarter to go buy something.
and that's why, so I'm like, this one that we're looking at, like Weiss,
I'm loving
is
this.
five-
This is so far out of my realm.
5
of
bedrooms,
knowledge.
5.5
This
baths.
is pretty much
It's got one of
our
those
spot.
apartments over the garage.
Just to make it.
For 1.4.
Make it stick, yes, got
It's
to.
2.2.
Well, welcome to
it's
the
2.3
club. And my
acres.
mind.
We also have this guy who moved across the street from us. He bought no cheap seats, not on the lake.
Yeah.
Just
And,
silly.
he's a pain in the ass.
There you, that could answer the question more.
And it's like, so there's 15 lots in the neighborhood, and so you get one butt head,
Right, ruins it for everybody.
ruins it for everybody.
All right, well, we've got lunch in there. If you want to go ahead and grab some lunch, we'll give about 2 more minutes.
Thank you for doing this, Courtney.
You're very welcome. Well, I'll explain in a moment. I have a vested interest in it.
I didn't doubt that for a second, girl.
If I'm
I didn't doubt
If
that.
I'm nothing else, I'm strategic.
That is okay. There's
Oh,
just
and
nothing
I was
wrong
so-
with that.
I was a little disappointed that we didn't have a COS.
Sponsorship? Well.
No, at the lake for your planning.
Yeah.
You have
Oh, I thought
to-
you meant sponsorship. I was like, I feel like Jim would be very against that.
No, for your planning, 'cause
She left rent right off the shirt.
Yeah, Megan's magic rent was it's buy, sell, invest, and I didn't put rent.
Oh,
But
yeah.
I feel like that covers invest. Calm down.
Yeah, that's funny.
No, it could be that rent invest hold.
Rent, invest, hold, right, yep.
This is my other thing about like houses. If you're gonna have one with 5 bathrooms.
Yeah,
I'm never renting that sucker because it's just a party waiting to happen.
yes and no. So I have my Blue Ridge Signature Rentals Company.
Uh-huh.
And those are the kind of houses we like to have because what we do is you place high enough rent on it, it avoids the party. And a high enough deposit, they don't party. So I have ones that have 4 bedrooms, have party decks, have hot tubs and football tables and all that stuff. Like my house is a big house, I mean, it's on the lake. I don't get any party with it because I'm also $600 a month.
Yeah,
And like the one I just.
but I know a million East Coast parents who will rent that house for their kids. for college.
Yes, and we ask, and so we're real clear up front in our instructions, that if you're doing that, we'll deposit, and we'll immediately keep you out, there's no questions.
Well,
And not the one, I have never had. parties.
good or bad, I did this, and in our HOA, you can't rent for, the minimum rental is a year.
Yeah.
So you could rent it to like a young Harris professor, but it's also being on the water, we didn't want idiots next to us, you know what I mean? And we're the youngest people on our road.
That's even
All
better, right?
these people are gonna die and leave their kids,
Yeah.
and their kids are all over the place.
Yeah.
So the kids would be like, oh, let's rent that sucker.
No, I'm kidding. So,
How's your baby?
oh, she's the best person I know. She's a good baby. Yeah. She's a good baby. She really is. Thank you for asking.
Oh, how old is she?
She's a year and a half.
Okay, yeah.
So getting out of.
We'll ask her
age-
next week, right?
Well, no, she really is a good girl.
It's not really the terrible 2. I think it's the terrible 1.5 to 2.5.
Well, look, she'll throw herself on the ground if you don't move fast enough. So I don't know
Yeah.
where she gets that impatience. I'm trying to figure it out, but she is quite the impatient.
Blame her father.
Yeah, all right, exactly.
Courtney,
Give it
just
from her
wait, because my 18-year-old is like, she doesn't look anything like me, exactly like her father. But even her preschool teachers were like, she is a mini you.
Oh, yeah.
And she just
She's
like,
fun, sassy. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, and she, so, all right, so let's get started. First, I want to, I was saying this earlier, and I'll say it to the folks on the screen, is, I'm gonna give a full disclaimer. I have a vested interest in this class. That is the reason I'm teaching. I have a vested interest in the lunch sponsor, CNA Rentals. So I am teaching this class for, one, you're going to learn stuff about why to work with investors, what it means to do wholesale and how to avoid wholesale, kind of some best practices when it comes to wholesale. And then I'm going to talk to you about a program that we've been doing for about 6 months now with agents in this market center. You've probably seen some of the posts on the Rawls group, but we are getting commission checks into your hand because we know it is a very competitive market. I know, Christy, we're on what, number 2? Yeah, I mean, we're closing them and getting them done. So, but it's helping clients with tenant situations. It's helping clients that need to sell before they can buy. So, and I have a vested interest in that company. So, with it. So first, I'd like to introduce Megan Newton. This is my sister. She runs my CNA rental program. And what would you like to tell us about it?
Well, if you send us a client to work with, we will make sure that if they talk about buying or selling, that they come back to you for that purpose. We don't work with any buyers or sellers on the rental properties in our office unless they're already working with our office on that note. So we tag them in our system, make sure that we know they came from you. And Christy, we've done this with you probably before where they come back to you to buy or sell in the future. We do charge a month's placement fee, a month's rent placement fee to place a tenant in the property. That's to market it, do the move in, the lease, the whole shebang with that. And then after that, it is a 10% charge of the monthly rent collected for the property management piece of it. That's to handle all the repairs and deal with the tenant, collect the rent and do that. They're billed out quarterly for that. And if you'd like, we have our flyer there. If you have any questions, my direct sales on there and Courtney's sales on there. You can email us or give us a call directly.
So that is a separate company from Keller Williams. I have been in the business nearly 20 years. I'm on year 19. So I know, hard to believe. And I have my team and I, there are 5 of us sales folks. We will do this year about 260 units. And it'll be a little over $60 million in GCI. We work, we work and do that. I also have a holding company with Sherry Rispy. And Liz Cohen, we have a holding company for agents getting out of the business or ones that need to take a hiatus from the business. And then I also have a short-term rental company called Blue Ridge Signature Homes, where we manage in the Blue Ridge, Blairsville, North Georgia corridor, property managements on vacation rentals. So if you ever have clients that are looking for that end of it. We also have an expansion team up in the Blue Ridge area. So, and we are getting referral checks for agents in the Rawls group. Very, very good. What the thing that I will say about my partner up there is she is really, really good about keeping you updated. Like, hey, I just showed them some properties. We're gonna make an offer. Hey, we got our offer accepted. Hey, we're doing like, she really prides herself because what we found is that's the feedback when you give a referral is you kind of send it out into the world and it's like, well, whatever happened to Bob and Sue, right? And you don't want to call Bob and Sue and be like, hey, what happened? Did you do anything? So she does an excellent job of keeping you updated on that. I know a lot of agents, that's one of our biggest feedbacks we get is like, I felt like I knew exactly where we were. Hey, Rashonda, how are you? Good to
I
see
saw
you.
your post.
Oh, good, good. So we have that. I also invest in real estate. I own rental properties, vacation rentals, and then I also do wholesaling. So we're going to talk about what that looks like. So let's start first with, I guess if they have questions, comment. Stop me if you got questions on Zoom, okay? Same thing in the room. So let's start with investors. Why is it that investors make sense? Who here is working with investors? Good, good, good. So why is it that you think they make sense from a real estate standpoint?
Numbers.
What?
Mhm.
Numbers. It's logical. It's not an emotional decision. Yep, very good. What else?
Typically cash, quick buy, quick set transactions.
Quick transactions. You can put points on the board very quickly. What else? They're repeat offenders,
Yes.
right? These are people that, I mean, could do 5, 6, 7. I mean, I have one of my client investors, we'll do about 40 transactions this year together. I've worked with him for 13, 14 years. You know, he's one I was on the phone with him on my way over here. One of my best clients and longtime clients. We have a great working relationship. What else? What are some other reasons to work with investors? So they're great when you have a listing that maybe isn't market ready that you need someone to step in. So one of the things that I believe when it comes to investors is it's like a tool. It's no different than having a good home inspector or a good lender, right? That's a person in your arsenal to say, because my belief is if we went into our databases and called all of our clients and said, hey, if I were to call you with a property that's 70, 75 cents on the dollar off market, no competition, would that be something that'd be of interest to you? That you could either fix up or rent? What I find when I make those calls is it's one of two things. One, I'm not in the spot to do that, but you know who I do know that invests is my neighbor. So I didn't get a warm introduction to that person. The other thing that I get is they go, yeah, I would totally be interested in having a rental. I don't want to manage it or I don't want to deal with it, but I like the idea of having that mailbox money. Great, let me get you introduced to Megan and we can talk about what that looks like. So it's no different than having CNA rentals in your arsenal as well as a property management company. You don't have to do property management. In fact, I have it on probably good authority that the two people in the back row over there would prefer you not to do leases and property management, because what we know is that is one of the #1 ways that the fair housing people come and find you is through that. And unless you can guarantee, and I teach a class on this, the 10 pitfalls of property management and leasing, unless you can prove that everybody is treated exactly the same, you could truly set yourself up for some major CE and fines and license law stuff. So keep that in mind when you get that lease and it's like, well, it's January, I'm not that busy, I might as well take that lease. Think about that when you're looking at it. Okay, so we kind of established rentals are a great way to get some quick money, right? I mean, or not rentals, I'm sorry, investors are a quick way to get some quick points on the board, what I call it, getting points on the board, getting a unit done, some volume done. They're usually a little easier on inspection, right? I mean, that's another kind of, you know, they're not going to worry about a $200 GFCI or something. They're going to worry more about a $20,000 structural issue. So when we're looking at investors, what we're looking for is how do we bring them the properties? That's usually the hardest part of the job. And that's what I find with most investors is they are saying things like, we don't, you know, we just can't find an agent that really brings me a lot of property. We have to kind of start looking for those. And that's where when you're going on appointments and you're looking at them, you're asking yourself, okay, I meet with this seller and they're going to have to recarpet, repaint. They're going to probably have to change out the appliances to get that top dollar, or even to pass, you know, I mean, I've had some where you walk in and the roof is leaking and they've got a major stain on the ceiling. I mean, how many people have walked into those kind of homes where they are really investor specials? And the problem is they A, don't want to go out on the market because maybe they just want to be done quickly, or B, they're not really in a position to go out on the market. Like they're talking with other investors, and for them, it's more of a convenience factor, right? So you kind of got that bag to think about. So what happens too is there's a reason typically they haven't done those repairs. And the reason is they don't have $12,000, $15,000 sitting on the sidelines that they can use, because, you know, we always like to say, well, if you could spend $15,000 or $20,000 to get this house up and going, and the time it would take and all of that, but it's more about the money that they would be required to outlay. And what we find is most folks don't have that. So that's where calling an investor saying, well, there will be a discount for that, because yes, an investor is going to have to come in and do that, but they also have to make a profit. And that goes to what you were saying about the logical. When we're dealing with investors, it's very logical. They're going to have a certain dollar amount. And I like to focus on dollar and not percentage, because I think, you know, it's difficult to get a 10% return, but it's not difficult if we have like a minimum standard. We like a $20,000 to $25,000 return on anything under a $350 investment. Like if he can make in 60 days, 75 days, $25,000, now I can do that 4 times in the year. That's a good day, right? Like, I mean, when we agree $100,000 on the same 300,000, it's actually a 30% return. You don't see that. So it's understanding that math. Did everybody get how I got there on that? Okay. Because sometimes I can spell my numbers fast as I go. So understanding too, when you're working with the investor, what it is that's important to them. Is it about a quick turn? Now I'll meet with some investors. They're the ones that like to gut them to the studs, and they like a project, and they're like, yep, it'll take 6 months to get this done. I try to educate them on why I think those aren't necessarily the best kind of flips, because think about it. 6 months ago, what was our market like? Pressure cooker, right? It was an Instapot market. That's what I call it. Instapot. I mean, we were cooking, right? And look at it now. Are you seeing properties sit on the market? Are you seeing days on market go up? Are you seeing offers maybe below that list price? Are you seeing buyers go, I ain't waiving that appraisal. I am not waiving that inspection. So that would be the examples and the stories that I would tell an investor of, here's why that strategy might not make sense for you, because the market could shift significantly. Because right now there's investors that have bought stuff back in June, July using comps from February, March that are going to be listing first of the year thinking that's still the market. They exist. I know those guys, because I'm like, I think they're paying for that. And I'm like, no, the comps are there. I'm like, but will they be there in the future? Because the reason they're high is because they're propped up because these areas became unaffordable. These areas were to become affordable again, like your Smyrna, West Marietta feels that, right? We know that. Like the reason people move to Woodstock is because East Cobb is not as affordable as Woodstock is, right? I mean, we know that's fine. The reason people sometimes live in East Cobb is because Roswell and Sandy Springs is not as affordable. Same thought for us, Smyrna, West Cobb. You know, the reason somebody lives sometimes out in Douglasville and Dallas is that's what they can afford. That's where their budget lays itself. So you have to pay attention to those things when you're working with those investors. I always like to shoot under, like worst case, can we get our money back? You're going to spend, $25 getting this house updated and redone. You're going to pay $200. If nothing else goes right, can I at least get you out for the $225? That is, and that's a terrible way to look at it, but I think that's the way you have to shoot them is, look, if nothing else works, I know I can get you your money back, right? So that's the way to kind of think about it. Like if you're running it at, well, I've got 225 in it, and I think I could get you 260 if nothing else shifts, but really it's a 240, 250 neighborhood, that's going to be skinny. They're not going to make any money after commissions. They're just not. So that's where you've got to look at it and go, is this the right investment for them? Another thing with investors that I do is I say to them, if I bring you a transaction and it is off market or there is no commission being offered, I expect you to pay me a commission, right? That's if I hear that, you're going to pay me as the buyer the commission. And they got to be okay with that. And here's the other piece of it. You're also going to give me the listing on the backside. And if you don't give me the listing, you will never see another deal from me. And I assure you, there are guys walking around that have gotten one deal from me and didn't give me the listing. They don't get any more deals. This cow's milk is not free. So I'm very clear on it. okay? And you have to hold that line, and I challenge every one of you to be like that. And I'll have those guys call me back and be like, oh my God, I made a terrible mistake, I promise nope, one and done, burn the bridge, I'm done, right? So I challenge you all to hold that line and go after the commission up front and on the backside, because I know there's some agents that they believe that, oh, I'll get the listing. You can get another commission, because I assure you, if you're bringing them deals, opportunities, things that are going to make their family money, they will pay you because it's in the numbers, right?
Do you make them, I'm sorry to interrupt, do you make them sign on a listing agreement? How does
How are
that
you? Oh
work?
gosh, this is stressful when the brokers are in the room. Like when they're not here, I'm like, no, I would never do that. As an agent, absolutely, you should get the listing agreement the minute you know that they're going to commit, because it's not like I could talk about it or anything if I don't have the listing. I mean, I couldn't tell you about it if I didn't have a signed listing. So I would say I never not get a listing agreement. And again, my client that I've worked with a dozen years, we get the listing agreement when we get the listing agreement.
Gotcha. Yeah.
So, and he, he's a different animal. I have some clients that same kind of animal. And then I have some that I do everything by the book because I don't trust them yet, right? It's a trust. Just like he doesn't trust me with my numbers. You may be like, well, I went on Zillow and got some numbers, and I'm like, well, Zillow's an idiot. So let's start with that. But you have to kind of build that trust, and they have to start making money with you. And once they start making money with you, then they begin to realize, okay, she's legit, like, right? So you've got those clients, I'm sure, that it took a transaction or two. Hello, welcome. A transaction or two to be in relationship with, that they trust you and you trust them. Because to me, yes, if it's a first time, I'm getting everything signed at the gate, go. Right? So, but then you got to put the coming soon, there's things you got to do, coming soon, things like that, right? Okay, so back to investors. So let's go through what is an investor. So I want to make a distinction between investor and investor with cash. So a lot of people run around going, I got an all cash investor. Let me be clear. An all cash investor is someone that can walk up to the Wells Fargo, Bank of America, Truist, whatever bank they go to, and can withdraw the cash necessary to fund the transaction. A hard money loan, which I know a lot of guys walk around with, I got cash, I mean, they'll give me whatever I want. They'll give it to you if you meet underwriting requirements. So they are no different than your FHA, VA, or conventional loan financing. So I want to be very clear on that, because sometimes we get fooled into thinking they're all cash. And the easiest way to verify that they're really all cash is to make them provide a proof of fund statement within 30 days.
And Courtney, would you please define hard money lender as opposed to a regular lender, please?
Yep. Hard money lender is a guy that says, okay, the ARV after repair value on this property is $300,000. And I will lend you 70% of whatever that after repair value is. So they'll lend you $210,000. And so if that's the math, then that buyer has the buying power of $210,000. But typically they like to include into that their repairs. And the other piece on the hard money lender is they charge outrageous fees. If you have that client that is using a hard money lender, please understand that they're probably paying 2, 3, 4% in an upfront funding fee of whatever that amount is. So they could be paying $10,000 to $12,000 in just upfront fees. Their interest rate is probably somewhere between 8 and 11%, depending on how strong they are financially. It is a 6-month loan, typically. And the buyer pays off. So the only person, in my opinion, that gets rich on a hard money loan is the hard money lender, period. And I would caution you to not work with those folks. I will not work with a buyer that's doing hard money. It is too much of a headache, because here's the thing, those require an appraisal. So let's say that 300,000 comes in at 280 because this particular investor is pioneering new price points, right? I can get 300. My product is beautiful. I'll get 300. Well, the comps only show up at 280. And I price properties for a hard money lender that works with me as an investor client. I price his properties when he gets approached to do hard money loans. And he's tougher than I ever thought about, man. I mean, he might come in at 260 on that project because he wants to hedge his bets, right? Because what happens if on month 7, that investor didn't pay off that loan, he's going to have to start foreclosure or extend the note. So, right, it's just it's a tough business. It's no different to me than, the title pawn people. It really, and look, I get there's a need for sometimes for stuff like that. And you know, this particular hard money investor, he's not as aggressive with his fees, but he is aggressive with his pricing analysis. But hard money loans, you should not be writing contracts, correct me if I'm wrong, that say all cash. They should be a financing contingency if you're really protecting your clients.
And I was getting ready to add, it's a conventional loan exhibit,
Conventional loans.
but instead of checking over here on the right hand side, it's,
Institutional
You're
lender,
gonna check
it's other.
other,
Ah.
and that's how you do the financing part.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Have you heard of ribbon and where do they come into this?
Yes, well, we're gonna talk about ribbon and homework here in a minute. Okay, so we'll put a pin in here. Let me just put a pin in that. Ribbon, homework.
Courtney, if somebody is buying property strictly to keep it as a rental, and they have to do an appraisal, but they do a different kind of appraisal, like what the rental.
Right, so the conventional lender orders a rental appraisal. So it's usually like an appraisal is $400, $500. This is usually $600 to $800. And because they're establishing a rent roll, a rent rate for the area to verify, because what happens is the investor wants to see if you're gonna sign up for a $1,000 payment, that you can just about wash about 75% of that away with rent, right? So that's what they're kind of looking to verify, that this is in fact a good rental. And they're gonna verify that the HOA allows rentals. That's the other piece of it. So when you're doing that second loan standpoint, it's with a rental for a second home, or excuse me, not a second home, an investment home. They're gonna verify that you can cancel out most of that payment with rent. They like to see that. That's an underwriting requirement.
Who would you go to for this kind of a loan?
Reed, Jeff, those guys can do those.
Okay.
I mean, I've used Supreme on some of my investment properties that I have mortgages on. I mean, when I refinance some of them, I've used, my contact. I mean, Reed and Jeff can handle that stuff. If it's, it's another loan, right? But hard money, that's different than Reed and Jeff don't do hard money. Just like they don't do home equity loans, right?
Mhm.
Questions out? Any other questions around that? Yes.
So if you get an offer with hard money and the cash exhibit is sent, do you have to resend it on?
Oh, yes, I do. And I'm real quick to educate the agent on here's what it is.
Ah.
So now, so first and foremost, if I'm doing my client the right service, I don't care if they have a financing contingency, but I'm probably gonna get that earnest money up
Right.
because there's a high probability that that might not close. So I want to protect my client. And I go to my client and I say, look, this agent clearly doesn't understand the buyer she has on her hands. And they're actually doing hard money because they don't realize it. And they think they're all cash because that person's presented himself that way. So what I think we ought to do is get a double or triple the amount of earnest money to really prove how serious he is. Because they'll write them with no inspection, no
Right.
appraisal, and all, that stuff still has to happen.
Yeah.
So yes, I would just protect my client, but I would not go back to the other agent and say, hey, you left off this financing contingency. I mean, look, I had one the other day. She put 5 days on the appraisal contingency.
Oh.
Yeah, right? Oh, and it's not my job to tell her how to do her job, right? That's not doing our client the best service. So we just got some more earnest money. And guess what happened? At the end of the deal, it did not appraise.
Right.
And we said, so you have a choice. You can lose your 6,000 earnest money, or you can figure out the $8,000 difference. Let us know which way you decide. And they recognized it was a mistake.
And that's happening a lot, right?
Correct.
We're seeing that, yeah.
Because they just, they're just trying to get a deal done, right? We're just trying to get a deal done.
Yeah.
So that's where, pair up with somebody in the office if you're not on a team and have them review your contract. Because sometimes we might have meant to put 15 and we put 5.
Yeah.
And that sucker gets found and guess what? It's 5. So that would be just good business. Just have somebody say, quickly, could you read over this and make sure these are the terms that are put in there, right? Yeah. Any other questions? Okay, keep it moving. All right, so investors, we understand we want to work with them and we want to work with ones that have proof of funds. Like I said, I will not work with somebody that's doing hard money. It is not my bag. I'm not going to do it. I don't have the time for it. My deal's too good to give it to a hard money guy. I'm not working it because I also know they're paying that hard money person, like I was saying, that fee. So right there's 3-4% of the money in the transaction is going to go to the hard money lender. So that makes a $20,000-$25,000 deal not look that exciting, right? So ways to tell kindly hard money people, because I have had those guys come to me 4 or 5 years ago and say, I'd like to work with you. And I go, I don't work with hard money. Get your money up. And they'll go work with some agents, get their money up, and they'll come back with their proof of funds. And now we work together. So, be nice, because those guys can turn into something down the road that does make sense. okay? But be very, very cautious on hard money, okay? All right, let's get into wholesale. So is the gal I talked to on the phone 2 weeks ago in here that, what was her name you sent her to me to talk to about how wholesale, is she in here? I don't want to call her out, but I don't think she's in here, no, right? No, she would have raised her hand. Okay, so I had a conversation 2 weeks ago with a gal who she goes, I think I want to get into wholesale. I was like, that's great, awesome, do it. And please know, as a licensed agent, you are going to be held to a much higher standard than one of these sleazy investors that are just running around doing wholesale deals. So when you walk into a property to do a wholesale, because I get calls all the time, I just want to sell it quick, cash, done. What does that look like? And I have bought a number of properties that were off market that someone called me and said, I just want to sell it quick. And the way I recommend, and I think a best practice is, you walk into that house and you're giving them as is, as an option and retail. So for instance, I'm under contract, I'll give you the math on it. I'm under contract right now on a condo that I'm buying for a rental property, okay? The condo is, you know, ARV on it, retail fixed up is about 150. That's totally redone, maybe 160, okay? I would take out the commission. This is what I charge, it's not what our office necessarily charges, but it is what I charge for commission. In the property, she needs carpet, paint, she needs appliances, very 1980s, what do you say, 70s? It's like, at the time, it was primo when she did it, and she ain't touched it since. She said it and forget it, and it's fine. The bathrooms are very dated, like the toilet, I thought was a squatty potty at first. It is so low, like I feel like I would need like a rope to pull myself. So it's little things like that. My best guess is it is a $20,000 to $22,000 rehab. So $22,000 will put it in there, rehab. And that's if cost materials and everything's available. And it is somewhere between 6 to, I would probably put a 6 week. I mean, I think I'm telling the gal I'm renting it to, I'm giving her like 6. I said, look, by 1st of February, I'll be able to get you in there, right? So it's about a 6 week rehab. And it's sitting vacant, so they're gonna have utility. And they're gonna have costs of HOA, so there is an HOA in that. So I'm gonna put that about 1,500. And so I did my math on that, it's 135, another 22, that's 107, another 1,500, so it's 105.
Well, all right.
All right, so my offer, because I'm looking at this long term, this is a place I'm gonna hold for a number of years, this is a place that I'm paying cash for it, all I've got is really an HOA and some taxes that I'm gonna pay on it, and I've got $22,000 worth of rehab. I offered them $100K net to them. Now that is a difference of $5,500, and I don't wanna make that seem like that is not that much money, because we work very hard to make $5,500. And when I did the math for her, I was very quick to explain, this is the math. Now you may say, well, $100,000 spent or 122 you're going to spend on it to have it, but I'm also going to make $500 a month on it when the net rent happens because I'm cash. So for $500 a month on a $122,000 investment, I don't know anybody in town that would take that, right? And I'm also going to have a property that's worth 150, 160 because I've done the rehab. So you see the math on that? But when you're going in and you're saying, I'd like to purchase your property, you have to present both options. I think from a broker standpoint, you have to present, you owe it as a real estate professional, because what you don't want to happen is that person says, and I quote, well, they didn't tell me I could sell it for 150, 160, because what happens if I don't rent it out and I throw it back on the market at 160 after doing the work, and they're like, well, I would have done all that, because if it's 160, it's more like 150, about 15,000, right? If the market does me well, I'm at 160. What happens at that conversation? How mad do they get? Think about those folks in California right now that are PO'd because that seller, that agent said, I got to put your house on the market. I got a buyer right here. They'll buy it right now. Done. And then the neighbor 3 months later sold for $200,000 more. There are lawsuits happening in Florida, California, where somebody said, well, I didn't know I could have got that. They didn't tell me I didn't list. They didn't tell me I wasn't in the MLS. And guess who the onus falls on? The agent. We owe a professional standard to them. So this piece of paper right here, I take a picture of and I cover my butt, because when they come back, because let's say my tenant doesn't move in February, or let's say that complex blows up and it becomes like a 190 community. I'm like, you know what? I'll take my money and run. I don't want her coming back So I keep my comps, I keep a picture of this page, and I make it really clear that they understand they were never listed. They never went out to the open market, and I purchased property, which that's disclosed, obviously. But, you know, Sherry would be way up in arms, trust me. But that's the way to cover yourself when either A, you're buying a property, because like one of the communities I sell a lot in, 30067, if you've ever taken a class with me, you know, there's no reason to market to it. There's no reason to do anything in 30067. I have it covered. Okay, I'll give you other zip codes to focus on. 30067, I'm under control there, right? Right, Megan? We got it. So I buy a lot in, you know, Red Oak Park, Handy Acres. I have quite a few rentals in there, and I get calls with estates, right? That's the one where either, you know, they're having a baby or they're being wheeled out. And in that community, I'll get calls and people will be like, I don't want to list it. I just want an as is cash offer. We market for those in there. We say, look, we can write you a cash offer because I'll buy about anything in there if the price is right. And I'm very clear. Here's the math. You know, and they have things like zestimates and tax assessments, right? I mean, you've gone on those listing appointments where they very clearly said, well, the tax assessor says I'm working. I'm like, yeah, you're over assessed. You should have been fighting that for the last 10 years or 5 years or however long you've been at that value. You're actually not worth that. You were never really worth that. Your neighbors are worth that because they're totally redone, but your house is straight out in 1975.
You're not recording me and talk about why Zillow did not work.
I'm gonna get to it, Jim. I'll put it up here for you.
Thank you, sweetie. I'm gonna show you why it did not work.
You know, that brings me joy.
I know it does. That's why she brings me.
Yeah.
Because I said, told you so.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So this is the way to protect yourself. Now, wholesale, let's talk about what a wholesale is. So this is me buying like as an investor. Wholesale is, let's say on this, I go, I'll buy that for 100,000. And then I have like the next week, a client shows up and says, you know what, I just need a good condo. I can put my sister in it. I just need something I can buy. It needs a little bit of, you know, facelift work. And I'll go, you know what, I'm under contract on this place. I'll sell you my contract for $5,000 or $10,000. And he goes, you know what, that's a deal because I love that complex. I get that I'll be in it still. I'd still be under market. And in this market, that matters. And it's a good place for her. And there's nothing on the market in there. I'll take that. I can sell my contract only if I have stipulated in the contract that this contract may be assigned. Does that make sense to
Do
everybody?
you do that with all your contracts?
On this one, I didn't because I'm so like
Okay.
hot and heavy for it. But if I have a feeling I might do a wholesale on it or may want to assign it to another entity or partner with somebody or something, sure. I put that language in there. And on the ones I do wholesale, like I have a whole wholesale division, every contract has that same language in there. Trust me, Sherry's double checked it, triple checked it. It's there. So in that scenario, I have to have that language because that's the issue typically is they want to sell their contract or whatever, and they don't have that language in there. So the other piece of that side of that coin is if you walk into it with the idea that I'm going to wholesale it, I firmly believe you better have the money to close it if it doesn't go, if it goes haywire. Because where like the gal I was chatting with 2 weeks ago, I said, do you have the money to put up if this doesn't close? If your investor on the back end bails, are you able to close that? Because again, we are held to a higher standard. We know what we're signing. I know there are agents in our East Cobb community that have wrote checks for commissions because they bailed on contracts that they were the buyer on. And they just, oh, I'll just cancel and you have my earnest money. No, you owe my commission too. So keep that in mind. We are held to a higher standard by the real estate commission. And how mad is that person going to be thinking they're closing cash? And it was like, oh, I'm so sorry. I thought I had to go find a buyer for it. I wasn't really the buyer. I was actually going to mark it up and make money off of you. So if you are doing wholesales, I highly recommend you're in a position to do it as a double close as opposed to an assignment. Does that make sense? Yes, no? Everybody understand what a double close is? Okay, good. Because an assignment, it shows an assignment fee on the contract that's paid, and that owner's going to see that. Not that they won't see it in the tax records after it's done, but I think you're setting yourself up for questions. And because think, if I'm sitting at the closing table and I'm that seller, I'm going, what's this $10,000 assignment fee being paid to you? And why aren't you the buyer anymore on this? I'm not doing this deal. I can get $10,000 more. This isn't what.
How much is usually an assignment fee?
Look, I've closed some with some of these wholesalers, they'll get $1,000. I'm thinking, what the heck is this about? But look, I don't care. Like, I don't care. I've always said this, my investors that I work with, we don't care what you make on an assignment fee. Either our numbers work or they don't, right?
Right.
I've seen them as great as $60,000.
Yeah.
So it's just how good's the wholesaler and how motivated is that seller, right? Do they just want it gone? And, because I'll get those calls because a lot of those wholesalers, they may not take my first offer because they got a little higher one that's hard money. And then it's time to close. And on Wednesday, they call and they go, Courtney, we've got this deal that you said you'd pay this for it. We're so sorry. We're going to have, would you take our offer? Will you go back and present your offer and close Friday? Because they know my investors are cash. They took the hard money guy that hadn't got his ducks in a row.
But you are asking to see that purchase price.
No. I'll go.
Depends on
So
the
like, let's say
assignment.
let's say they had 110 and maybe we were at 100 and they're like, well, we're going to go give that one a shot. And I'm like, great, if it doesn't work out, holler at me. And what I typically do, this is how you know I'm really mean, is if I said 100 6 weeks ago and you went with 110 being greedy, I'm gonna come back at 98. Right? Pigs get fat, hogs get slaughtered. I can close in 48 hours. So for 2000, that's on you. You should have took my 100 and we'd have been done with 2 weeks ago.
And who's the purchase agreement goes to? Goes to the
Depends on if it's an
wholesaler?
assignment or if they're doing a double close.
Okay.
If it's an assignment, they're going to send me a copy of the purchase and sale agreement that they have with that seller. And then they're going to have an assignment amendment signed that says this is now assigned to this company. And that's the way that works. On a wholesale, like that's A to B, B to C contract where it's a double close, they're gonna have their A to B that I'll probably never see.
You never see that.
Huh? You don't get to see that, right? And then the B to C, I'll be a party to, and it's a normal contract, but it usually has language in it that says this is contingent upon successful close of the A to B.
Who pays the assignment?
A to B, B to C.
Who pays the assignment?
Changing hands on the A to B.
Depends.
That's what I was curious
It
about.
depends on the closing attorney. It depends on the strength of the person that's doing the transaction. You have to have permission though from the B to C contract to fund the A to B with it. So those are called simultaneous close.
Yeah.
So you have to have the permission of your B to C, and the attorneys would have to get that says they're allowed to use their funds to fund this transaction to then turn this one into a closing. And some groups will allow it, some won't. Like my investor, we don't care if that's the way we got to do it. But we usually, we try to get around having the double close and stuff like that if we can do it. So yeah. Any more questions around the wholesaling? I just want to be extra clear. Like if you're trying to do wholesaling, you should have the money in your bank account to close the deal or have the person that's doing it have the deal. The other piece of it is you cannot do any financing on wholesaling. Banks do not like to see assignment clauses. And you can't do an A to B, B to C. So the B to C contract also cannot have financing. It can't be conventional FHA because the title is not recorded. So those are ones you would have to fund it and then wait however long it takes to get that deed recorded. And then you can turn around and close it because we do a lot of those that will close it and then sell it to one of our clients for a rental. And they're fully aware, they know, they get it. But we will do it that way. Like we just closed one in Smyrna that it was a wholesale deal. Client was not in a position with the cash to go buy it. I said, look, I can buy it. We'll do the repairs and then I'll turn around and I will sell it to you at this price. Would you? He goes, yeah, I'll take it, done the whole day. And he was able to get a mortgage on it. But I had to take it down, buy it, fix it up and put it back on, sell it to him, right? So just understand that that is how you would get a conventional loan on wholesale. Somebody's got to take it down, close it, record it, then you can sell it once that title's recorded. Yes.
So you may have already said this, but if you're an agent and you want to do the wholesaling, you have to have your broker's license. Is that not right?
No, you should,
To
but you
do a
don't.
wholesale?
Huh?
To actually like be the wholesaler?
You don't even have to be an agent.
You don't have to be a licensed agent. I mean, there's
I
lots
knew
of,
that, but I thought there was some Georgia law that you.
not that I'm aware of.
Well, great.
Well, great. So here's what I say to a lot of agents. Let's say you get one of these deals and you're like, hey, Court, I got $100,000 condo at East Cobb. I'm willing to sell you my contract for 105, 110. I just pay you a commission, right? That's the difference. We don't have to do wholesales. We just take a commission and you get the commission from the investor you brought the deal to, right? That's a wholesale deal, essentially. You're just marking it up, and then there's no rule that says you only have to charge 3%, right? I mean, these wholesalers, a lot of them, they're, like I said, they're not licensed because they don't want to be. But you can, and I pay bird dog fees all the time to agents. I mean, we call them bird dog fees because that's what it feels, because there's no representation of commission. But it's like a referral. I'll pay you this, bring me the deal, go, right? Why wouldn't we? It makes sense. If either my numbers work or they don't. So, and we have lots of agents running around that calls my particular investor and says, I've got this deal. He says, call Courtney and let's roll up the flagpole, see what makes sense, right? So be that person on both sides, right? Like, I got deals, people know in Cobb County, call me. I will make it work. All right, so let's talk a little bit about, so I'm just gonna go ahead and tell everybody, I think I told a couple people. We had a retreat last 3 nights up at the mountains, and they had a Tempur-Pedic bed, and I sleep on a spring bed, and this is how I know I'm getting old. I got a hitch in my giddy today. Oh my word. My back, I mean, I'm like, what did I do? This mattress is killing me. So I'm just gonna lean on this chair for a few minutes. All right, so let's talk about Ribbon and Homeward. We are preferred agents with Homeward. So I do say it is again, another like tool in your toolbox that allows you to offer something for a client. Because I do think when we were in the Instapot market, it was extremely competitive and they served a very good purpose, right? Like people that couldn't find a house. So Ribbon and Homeward are very similar. Ribbon, in my experience, has been far more stringent on their, like what they require. The HOAs, they're real, like, so for instance, if on Ribbon, like I had a deal not work because the HOA said no rentals. And it was like, but technically it's the owner occupying it prior to closing. That's not a rental. It's not creating a landlord-tenant relationship. But Ribbon, overthinking it, canceled. And you know, you hated it for the buyer because they aren't getting the house they wanted. Same thing with Homeward. Homeward purchases, they're not as stringent, but you are paying a premium to use their funds, right? We all agree. It's typically what I have ran the number about 2.5–3% of the purchase price is what it'll cost them to acquire the property, and then they're going to pay market rent. So I have come up with a program, and this is more of that vested interest, folks, vested interest. I have come up with a program over the last 5 months because I said there has to be a better solution to this. And I have partnered with an investment group who will purchase properties from the sellers, because it's very rare that you have a client that can go buy, owns a $300,000 house and can go buy a $600,000 house without selling. They typically need the cash out of that property, or they won't qualify for the mortgage, you know, with both, or they don't can't do a home equity line, so they'll throw them out of whack, right? We know those clients. It's like, I have to sell before I can buy. So I have an investment group that will come in and purchase the property. Y'all got the flyer in front of you. They will purchase the property. They'll buy it if the tenant's in place. They'll let the owner stay. They will buy it basically as is. And I, you know, like, I'm so glad Christy's here today. Thank you. Because I think you can speak to our inspection process.
Oh, it's the easiest inspection process I've ever seen.
Correct. It's super simple. We walk in, they do their pictures, documentation, they look at things, they verify things are there, operational, and they're out the door.
They don't ask for anything. They just want to know the condition. I mean, if you had something scary that they didn't know, I'm sure they would.
Right. So this particular group will come in, we make an offer. We're asking right now, because it's taking a second. I'm asking for like 3 to 4 days, business days, to get a price for you. It helps if you say this is a price I know they'll take roughly. I need to know if there's a commission involved, because that does factor into their pricing. And we're able to come in and purchase the house. And the real win, I think, for a lot of people is, like, we just did one with Danielle Pena, that her clients were trying to move from Canton to East Cobb. And a contingency in Walton is like not gonna happen, especially on a house in Canton. Oh my gosh, right? We purchased their house and we gave them 120 days after close, or excuse me, we gave them 90 days after close. We did a 30-day close. So they had 120 days from the date of contract till they have to move to be able to go find a home. First weekend out, they had a house because nobody takes their contingency. And a $500,000 house in East Cobb, that's a tough ask, right? I don't care how strong the buyer is. They were able to get a house. I think they got a great opportunity for them. They got the house they wanted. and they didn't have to move. They didn't have to have double moving fees. They didn't have to, worry about like timing it just right with the buyer that was buying their house. They just said, give us this time and we'll have something found by then. It's instead of buy now, sell later, it is sell now, move later. And that's the value proposition. And I believe, Christy, that the offers are very fair, because if I do the math, so for instance, we just got one locked up yesterday. Let me do the math for you, for an agent. It's in a neighborhood up in North Cobb area. Retail value on the house, $320. That's what Zillow, everybody kind of says this is what it's worth, about $320. Take out the real estate fees. It needed carpet, and it did need some touch-up paint. So we guesstimated that was around $10,000 of stuff it needed when the agent did the math for them. And then they want, because they were buying another house, they wanted 90 days after close as well. So we took their mortgage payment, which was right around $2,000, and I said, we're going to add back in $6,000 because that's savings. You're not paying $1 for that rent back. That's the other advantage. That is money in your client's pockets. So when I take all of that into consideration, and not to mention, they've got to time it right, they've got to find their house, they've got to do every little thing just right from a timing. I mean, we know that stress. I mean, this is what we do for a living, guys, is line these dominoes up. It is stressful. So when I do that math, it's going to put me at about 285.5. I just know the math off the top of my head. All right. My client's offer on this property, 284. If that's not a no-brainer, I don't know what is. They couldn't sign that contract fast enough. They did their inspection yesterday. We're ready to roll. So when you're looking at it, you're going to need to do the math. So what I have included for you on the back is a seller net sheet. I can email PDF this out to anybody that wants it. And what it is I've got in here the commissions. Now you can change the 6% if you don't charge a 6 or whatever, you may charge more. Ready to market, that's where you're having a really frank and honest conversation, right? There's yard cleanup. There's gutter cleanup this time of year. There's, there's touch-up paint. There's the staging. There's the, having it deep clean before close. Think of all the little nitpicky stuff. I mean, you start adding it up. It costs to put your house to market. The lease back, if applicable. They are going to have to pay, because I don't know about you, my buyers typically want to see a little compensation if I'm going to give you 60. Because I'm not saying buyers won't give them the 60, 90 days. I mean, we're not exclusive for that, but they're not going to do it for free. Huh?
If they're buying with a loan, the lender may not let them.
Right. Well, they won't let them get usually more than about 60 days because they want to see an owner occupant loan, moved in by day 90. So, there's that piece of the puzzle. You have on market maintenance, $400. They're having the house cleaned, they're having the yard kept up, they're doing all of those things. HOA fees, if those exist, because those then become the responsibility because we've closed of the new person. That's not a fee anymore. Think about some of these HOAs, that it's $200 a month because it's $1,200 a year, right? So you start taking those numbers, the taxes, all of those numbers into account, and you do the math. It's a simple math problem. That's why we like working with investors, right, Sandy? Is because it's a math equation.
So the lease back they are not paying for the lease back up to 120 days.
Right. So what I'll do, if you say, look, I need 4 months, or I think I talked to you about their building. So I said, look, I can probably get you about 4 months because we'll do a 30, 45 day close. And then we'll do 3 months after. I can do up to 90 days after close. There's no charge for that. It's incredible. Right. Because my thought was, how can I make this work for everybody? And I know that's a win. So then I go on the other side for the, for all of the things that they're going to need to do. And I mean, like I said, that doesn't include carpet paint, things like that, the traditional sale offers. If I go to the other side for the as is, it's a lot of zeros where there would be dollars on the other side. So at knee jerk, I'm sure the client, the seller listening to 284 went, oh, that's so low. I mean, I presented those offers and I go, well, let's do the math. And maybe you've already got this kind of filled out a little bit in there. We agree because I brought you a CMA that ARV is 320. Your house is worth 320 out on the open market, but that's not meant to you. Let's do the math. And you talk through it. And we close whenever you're ready. We ask for about 30 days right now, just because it's just taken a second to get title and stuff like that. And usually that's not a problem for most people, especially if they're living in it. The other piece is we'll buy them with a tenant in place. So let's say you've got an investor that's like, oh my gosh, I'd love to sell in this market because I know April, June, it's gonna be a different market. I got 6 months left on this lease, but these people are so dang nice. They are so nice and I can't ask them to move. I cannot break this lease. Or if I break the lease, what's our penalty if you break the lease as the landlord?
You gotta pay a month's rent to the tenant.
You gotta pay a month's rent to
60
the
days
tenant,
notice.
60 days notice, and it costs you a month's rent. So you get some, they're like, I don't wanna pay that money. And you go, well, and you know, and they were like, Christy, I'm using you again as an example. We've got one that there's a tenant in place, the lease is up in April, when we agreed, April, June, something like that. They've smoked in it, like they know they're replacing carpet, they know they're gonna have to paint. There's all these things that was in their calculations. And my investor said, no problem, we'll buy it, we'll take the tenant in place. when you
And
wanna
let the
close.
tenant put a notice to get out
Yeah.
early.
Tenant said they wanted to be out by the end of the year. Bye. We're okay. So yes,
So you said 90 or 100, 90 or 120 days?
90 days after close, I can work it to 120, 135 days. I can almost get you about 5 months of time. Like we could close in 60 days. Like I've had some that we've had to wait a minute to get it closed.
Right.
So yes, we can work with you. Our
And
price
how
is
do
good.
we, and is that, basically, we are the listing agent, so we write a contract with you as the buyer, you are the
Absolutely.
buyer.
You're bringing a listing, you're
Right.
signing a listing agreement. And you're saying, look, I have a strategy, I have a tool that I can offer you, that I have this investment group, it's an agent in my office, she's closing transactions. She can make us an offer, you can then go out into the marketplace and either we can get it closed or you can start looking immediately. Like we have one that she just went under contract, one of my buyer's agents deals. And she goes, should I put a contingency? I said, no, like we're gonna close it, like it's done. So we took that risk. There is, don't get me wrong, there is risk, but our earnest money is greater than her earnest money. So, right, so cover your ears, yeah. But yes, I feel like, so, but some people will wait till the closing and then start looking or start
So
writing
your offer
offers.
is a cash offer?
It is truly cash,
It's a cash.
I assure you.
So that's how
it's
you
cash.
present it to our seller to say, hey, here's a cash offer.
Correct. We have closed 30 something units since July. So this is not like I'm testing it out. I mean, I would not be sitting up here if I didn't know this.
So
is
how are you all
working.
making money?
Well, we're getting paid. Right. I
Right.
mean, I told you at the beginning, my client's paying me.
Yeah.
I'm getting paid as part of the transaction.
From the investor,
Correct.
right? And how the investor is making money?
They're renting it. So their strategy is
Ah,
rentals.
Okay, gotcha.
They are purchasing these as rentals. So they get them really nice, looking great, and they charge great rent routes. And look, this group has recognized that Atlanta is that market. They also invest in Tampa, Jacksonville, and Nashville. They recognize Atlanta is their best market. So that is where they put, this is a group that's closing, a lot of, I am not their only client. We were fortunate enough to be able to get in. But we are closing the property. So yes, they pay me. If there's a commission, that just changes. I mean, it's the price, it's net to them. So it's what they can offer because they've got to pay me. Right?
Right.
So yeah, but get your regular commissions, what I tell everybody, go get your 3%.
So let's just do
You're
a
6%.
script, let's just do a script for a moment.
Sure.
Okay,
Love
Well-
it. I love a script.
so I am the,
You're calling me to get an as is.
no, I'm the agent
You're the
and you are the owner of the house.
Mhm.
Okay,
Okay.
so I want to tell you about this new program that if we can put the house, if we can just get straight cash. And let me show you the numbers, how they work.
Mhm.
Okay, and instead of you going on the market, we'll just pay you cash. Okay,
This
so
investor will pay cash.
right, it is an investor group, we'll pay you cash. Okay, so you're gonna start to ask me questions like,
So here, why don't we do this? You be the seller.
okay, I'll be the seller, right?
All right. Thank you so much for having me out today. I'm glad you want to understand kind of what your options are when it comes to selling. And I get you're moving from Woodstock, Ackworth, and you're wanting to come into East Cobb. It's a great area. I'm definitely the right person to help you make that move. Now, what I know is there's two options. One is you're just able to sell out on the open market like most traditional sales are, where you list it and buyer shows up, says this is the day I'll close. And then we've kind of got to back into a house because I understand based on your pre-qualification, you are not in a position to be able to purchase with because you need these funds, which is very typical. The other option I have that not every agent has, it's actually pretty much an exclusive to my Keller Williams office, is I can get you a cash offer that is a net to you type price, that there's really no inspection. There's no having to figure out backing into the close date. There's no appraisal, there's no financing. They just close whatever date you need so we can back into it. The best part is they can give you time after close, Shelley, for you to, one, go find the house, but two, physically move, because moving sucks. I did it back in January. It's not a lot of fun. I think it took me like months to recover. And I want you and your family to have as smooth as possible. What we're gonna do is we're gonna do a math problem. And you may look at the numbers and say, this is the better option for my family. And that's what I'm here to do. Does that sound fair?
Yes.
Right, so let's go through the math, and I'll go through the math and say, look, it's 320 with the real estate commission, your net would be 285.5. I've already gotten you the offer, and they're coming in at 284. It's $1,500 difference, and that probably could cover your moving expenses. And it could limit you on what houses are available, because we're gonna have to line this up. But the decision is certainly yours on what makes the most sense for you and your family. Was there one that seems to stand out more than the other for you?
Well, if I put my house on the market, right, then what if we get in this crazy market? What if you get multiple offers and it's gonna be more than 325? Doesn't it make sense for
That
me? I
possibility
understand what you're saying.
absolutely exists, but here's what I know. I've called the last 4 agents that have sold, the ones that I've used the comps to establish at 320, and only one of those actually had multiple offers. And that was the first one. The last 3 all took about 2 weeks to sell and sold for at or a little below list price with closing costs. And I don't even have closing costs in that number. So we're starting to see a resurgence in the market of multiple offers. A lot of buyers have chose to sit on the sidelines. So yes, the possibility exists of multiple offers. The probability is actually much lower than it was this time last year.
And can you, so for example, you said no inspection. I know that my AC is getting a little bit older. How is that gonna play how is that gonna play in this? Are they gonna ask me to pay for a new HVC? It is working, but it's just about 20 years.
It is
old. It's
working.
like 15 years.
It's towards
old.
the end of its useful, but it is working.
Yes, yes.
That is the question, the answer to the question, just like any buyer might ask that. I mean, they're just not going to scrutinize it as hard as a home buyer, because this is a corporation that buys property. This is the business of replacing ACs. They own rental properties. This is part of their business, is to replace ACs.
Okay.
Same thing with the roof. The roof's, 15 years old. It's a 20-year roof, right?
Right.
So
So
that's,
there's no inspection.
and here's the good news. So let's say you're looking at 284 and you go, I could make that work. You're never going to hit the market. So we still keep the option on the table that, let's say they do come back and say, I want $6,000 for a new AC unit. You can always say no, and we can go with plan B. So that option
Yeah, that's a
exists
good
for you.
idea.
Whereas if you go out to the open market, their offer goes away. They will not purchase them once they've hit the open market. All right. Yes, ma'am.
How do you offer more than 60 days of occupancy after closing, without pissing off Sherry? Because
Because I do a
the
temporary occupancy agreement?
that can only be used for 60 days.
No, it can't. Right? I mean,
The temporary occupancy is for 60 days. Lender requirements are usually 90 days.
yeah, it
Oh,
doesn't.
so if it's cash, it totally doesn't matter.
Cash whatever you agree
It
to.
doesn't matter, it's all cash.
Ah,
Yeah.
I can
I
sleep
mean,
better
trust
at
me, I
night.
piss Sherry off regularly, but that's not one of them.
I've been having dreams about her haunting me.
Yeah, me too. No,
I
that's
thought
not.
I thought lending is 60 days only.
Lending is 60
60 to
days,
90
cash,
days.
it
It
doesn't
depends on the
matter.
loan, like
Right.
FHA 60, but conventional's 90.
Yeah.
So no, it's not an issue from that. So the reason this is also an opportunity is Zillow. So as you all know, the $1 billion elephant in the room has gone away. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Just, can I have one more question?
Yeah.
If we bring a property to you, do you want us to disclose what we think is wrong with it? Will you ask us, like, it needs painting, they were smoking?
Oh, yeah, that stuff helps if I know it. Yeah. I thought you meant like, it sits on, it's the first house in the neighborhood, and I think they won't get us. I don't care about that kind of stuff. But yes, if your client is telling you, hey, I got paint, I got carpet. Look, they bought one that unfortunately the animals were using it as their pee pads.
Oh,
It was disgusting.
Oh.
It didn't matter. Like, because they're replacing the carpet anyway, right? So like carpet paint, things like that. But no, I mean, there's stains on the roof. I need to know what those were and if they were something. So we may require seller's disclosure. Like if we walk it and go, okay, yeah, we need to know that. But no, I don't care how old like roofs are and stuff. As long as they're working, doesn't matter. It's kind of crazy.
And just real quick, I think some of y'all might have missed when she did the numbers. She might do a 60-day close date and then another 60 days to get that 4 months that you need.
Yeah.
Not a 30-day
Oh, I see what
close.
you're saying.
Cause like when you
Yeah.
called me on the new construction and it's running 6 months, I'm like, you may have to go, we may have to really but I feel like I could get you to 6 months if we know the builder will close on 6 months. And it may be that we gotta do longer and we just have to figure it out. It's a 90-day close, but I can back into any close date. I just need to know.
One thing that really impressed me, the property that I called Courtney about, she, within like 20-30 minutes, she had an answer about HOA restrictions.
I look it up
Like,
before
I
I
didn't
run
even
it up
have
the
to-
flagpole.
I didn't have to do anything. She knew everything.
Yeah, I wanna know. So let's talk about what we won't buy. We cannot buy in a community that has a rental cap. So if it runs a 20% rental cap, like a lot of HOA, we cannot do that. And you've gotta know that. So if we like no rental restrictions whatsoever, like we had one that they had, the rental restriction was no short-term rentals. And they gave us a little bit of heartburn on it. We were able to get it back on track. But we like no rental restrictions. We don't care if there's covenants and restrictions. That's not an issue. They actually prefer those. We don't like houses that are like this kind of roof. They like more of a traditional, like what do they call this, A-frame or a barn roof or a roll roof. You know what I'm talking about? You've seen some of those. They don't buy, ironically, in like 30067 certain ages of homes, and I'm not gonna give you a number, but typically that area is more than 45 years old. They won't buy in that pocket, weirdly. So yeah, they don't buy townhomes, condos. They only buy single family. And that's, I think, yeah.
There a price cap on that?
We will buy up to 440 now. They just raised my price because I did such a good job for them. They've raised my price.
And what do you-
So
what are you
I'm
doing?
very happy about that $100,000 jump because I was at 350, and that really tied my hands. 440, I can do some damage at 440. Yeah.
So what are you doing in terms of commission you presented to the, when you presented to the seller? I mean, are you doing 6% because I have to give you 3 and me 3?
We work
or-
it out. Some deals, like I'm doing with Christy, there wasn't, she got her commission and I didn't, and we just made the numbers work.
Got it.
Some deals, like the previous one, I got my full 3%.
Right.
So I just have to know that up front, because I put on this piece of paper the information I need to get with my text number to text me. If you text me this information, hi, welcome. If you text me this information, I will be able, like I said, between 3 to 4 business days to get you a price, sometimes sooner, sometimes later. So like Christy, I highly encourage you, like on Arapahoe, call through that neighborhood and say, we just sold this house for this price as is with tenants and, or, that tenant just left. Would you like to sell?
Mhm.
What does that look like? Right? Like, because to me, once you get one done with us, you can circle prospect like crazy in that area because you kind of know the price. The price is the same. Like for this one, I was able to get the price really within about 40 minutes because they had already bought 2 in that community. So I could quickly get a price because the square footage is the same. It's a very kind of the same cookie cutter neighborhood. So yeah, I mean, sometimes I can get you a price quicker, but I'm asking for some grace right now because they changed their system over. I'm like, you should be doing this the week between December 15th and January 15th, but whatever. But this is a great contact right now to clients that look, I get the scary part is finding a house right now. I've got a solution. I think we ought to sit down and run some numbers because if you're really serious about buying, because I believe the spring market is not going to be as intense as it has been. I think you're going to see a lot of people going out into the marketplace, and that can kind of create maybe not a buyer's market, but a balanced market. And I think you're going to see a lot of clients that if they were to close, let's say January 15th, with a 90-day lease back, what does that put them to? April 15th, they can move over spring break. Would that work for you, Mr. Seller? Would you want to buy a house and have the next 90 days to look and know your deal's done?
And you're a nice backup offer. So even though you didn't buy one of mine because the price is a little low,
She used me so
I did
hard
use her.
against that little
I did.
buyer.
that sweet little buyer.
I felt so used.
Okay, brought mine to the table to make up for the appraisal.
I
did
kept
this for
following
you.
up. I was like, appraisal work, did
did
inspection
it.
work, but we weren't the highest offer.
But she's
and that
still
can
there in
be
your
kept.
back pocket if you don't take it right up front,
That's right.
which is nice. And you may need to come back to her.
Yeah, and we're here if you need us because we can close relatively quickly. But I mean, I don't like to advertise 2 weeks, but we have done it. It's not my bag right now because I feel like we just need a little more time with the holidays and people take off and all that good stuff. But we are closing properties very regularly. Like I said, since middle of July, we've closed right at about a little over 30. So we're getting them closed. And I think it's just now it's an education to the agents now that we've got systems in place. Because tell me, do y'all feel like this is a tool like you could use, or am I?
It's a great tool.
Okay, I'm like, am I just full of myself? Okay, good. I mean, I
But
know I'm full of
really-
myself, but
Well, the 440, I mean, I have nothing in 68, so forget that.
well, we won't buy that anyway. They don't buy it.
68.
Yeah, they're not fans of East Cobb because the rents, it's just hard with the price and the rents. They can't quite make it work. Love anything Douglasville, Paulding, West Cobb,
West
North Cobb, Woodstock. We love Canton, love that stuff. Bring that all day. They do not buy in city limits. So if you're a city of Woodstock, city of Marietta, city of Kennesaw, they do not buy it. They don't like that extra tax. It's just funny, like this, yeah, some of their stuff, I mean, I don't question it. I'm like, whatever.
Do they go to the south of it? Or
There
they
are,
more-
like we'll do Jonesboro, we'll do Clayton County, there's pockets. And we can get you in a, like, on that, like, I went to, like, that south side stuff, I sent it immediately to my partner, because I don't know, like, I know if I can buy, like, Cobb, I know the HOAs usually, all of that. That south side stuff, I'll just send it over to him and say, look, can you buy it? He'll put it in and it'll say yes or no.
Okay.
Because there, it's very spotty, because the school district plays into it, rental rates, things like that, it's, you know.
What about like coming?
Yeah.
Off
Where was you
Loretta.
can rent it,
How
yeah.
about Gwinnett?
Yeah, Gwinnett, we love Gwinnett. Yeah, I haven't done a ton over there. It's not, you know, but we will do it. I just need a property. Absolutely. Yes.
I know you wanna move on, but
No,
to
this is
me-
it. This is, yeah, I'm running ahead of schedule.
Go ahead, Zillow it out.
Yeah, I gotta go off on Zillow for
So,
a second, but
to
that's
me-
just it. We got that.
So when I sit down with a seller, to me, it will be either we go in with this route where you may be getting a little less than you desire.
Correct.
On the flip side, if you use Homeward or Ribbon, are you willing to pay that extra
Paying it either way.
percentage and a half, or 1.5%, or 2, or up to 2 or 3, percent? It's like, which way do you want it?
Right, what's more important,
What's more-
convenience or the money? You can't have both. Think about when we're
You can't.
negotiating a standard contract. You're either gonna get your price and they're gonna have inspections and things like that, or you're gonna get your terms, the close date you want, maybe they waive appraisal, things like that, but you might not get the price. It's very, I mean, look, first 6 months of the year, they might have got both. You were, you know, we felt like people, and those felt like, you felt a little like, oh, you know, they're just so, because we had those sellers that were like, I remember I had a seller in September that was mad at me because he didn't get multiple offers, or he only got 2, I'm sorry, he only got 2. And I was like, you need to go to timeout. I am not. And I was like, you have exactly what you actually have 5,000 more than what you asked for. Hush, we're in it, cash, hush.
I
We are
think
going
the
to the
problem
table
is
with this.
that they're seeing what's playing on the news, and what's playing on the news is, you know, 45 days ago or whatever it
Yep,
is.
those
And if
stats
you
are old.
explain to them that what's closing today was a deal that was struck 45 days
Or
ago.
more.
Yes.
I mean, think some of these, I'm saying 60, 90 days, I could wait. to
So that's
close.
where I say the only people who really know what's going on are the people with boots on the ground.
That's right.
And we're showing houses yesterday or
Mhm.
listing houses yesterday.
Right.
And I think that makes them
And
see
you actually might have
where.
competition now that wasn't in the market
Courtney,
in July.
Mark's
Yes,
got a question, gotta go.
yes, go ahead.
Hate that I have to
You're
leave,
fine.
because this is so awesome.
Okay.
But, so we just text the information you need to get started to that
Text me
number,
direct on my phone
and then you just respond.
and
whether
I'll say I'm
where-
on it and I send it up the flagpole.
And when you say backup offer, like you were saying with Christy, do you actually use a backup offer contingency or?
Well, Sherry, of course I would use a backup contingency offer. I would never just say, but I'll say, look, my offer's sitting here if you're ready, right?
Yeah, got
Like, yeah, do I do the paperwork? Sometimes.
Thank you for this.
You're very welcome. Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
So I've got a scenario, it was with Zillow, so do you want me to talk about it when you do Zillow?
Love your accent. Yes, go ahead. Tell me more.
So I had a buyer who, in their house, they wanna buy new construction.
Mhm.
New construction said,
They have to have their house under contract.
sold,
Sold.
sold,
Girl.
before they'll let them sign the contract.
Mm-hmm.
So, unless they go with their link, send it to me, Zillow. Zillow will therefore not officially buy their house, but say they're gonna buy their house and let them stay in it
That's right.
until closing, and then they'll close at the closing table.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on the seller side.
Mhm.
Zillow is charging 5% commission to do that deal, and they will pay me 1%.
Huh, that's correct.
So when I spoke to my coach about it, he said, so why are you now looking like you're representing a, why are they giving you a tip?
Yeah.
So,
Good coach.
yeah, so, but I did go back to my seller though, and because they're the ones that told me, oh, Zillow, the
Uh-huh.
agent there said, and I got the guy to add his wife to the deal, so now they can keep
Right.
both homes.
Mhm.
But I was just thinking, what a cheek for the new construction guys to present that to
And truth
my.
be known, there's probably a referral somewhere in there to the.
Oh,
business.
yeah, there must be,
Mhm.
there must be.
Right, and that, you know, so, look, all right, we'll start about Zillow. So there is a reason Zillow is not in the market anymore, and we all saw it coming, right? I mean, if you guys at all look at my rants on the Rawls group, you understand that they're not our friends in this equation whatsoever. And when they were doing the iBuying, it was not to buy houses and put them back on the market for a profit. It was to create market share. It was to create leads for agents, because maybe you don't like my price, but our partner agent who's going to pay me 40-something% referral fee, you'll like her price better. And that's what you would see. And there are agents. So the game was not to buy the houses. Where they fell off, and I posted this, is the Department of Justice started examining what they were doing. Because it's like, how can you go online and tell somebody their home is worth $320, and then you offer them $284 minus all the fees, right? Because that's what you would see, is they're offering very similar prices to what I'm offering, but then they're gonna charge their acquisition fee because Zillow has to make money. And then they're charging a rent back fee, and then they're charging this and this, and then they come back and renegotiate during inspection. I mean, how many people did you have go, well, we're holding our breath on inspection, and oh gosh, they just came back and wanted like $7,000, $9,000, $10,000 more dollars off. And what happens is that client felt like they were so far down the tracks because maybe they did go purchase, or they have, and then they were having the problem of double housing. Because now I've sold my house, I can go buy, but I'm not able to move into that house. So I'm still, and I have to be out because maybe I need the funds to go buy the next house, or I got to clean up some stuff and then I can go buy, right? There was just so many variables when it came to Zillow. And what's happened is they've recognized that people are onto them, that it doesn't make sense. I mean, I firmly believe the reason they have shut down is because of the Department of Justice. And because they have senators investigating their business practices, because it was bait and switch. Your house is worth $320 if you're talking to a realtor or a consumer, but to us, it's only worth this. And that's not fair. 3 years ago, 3.5, almost 4, when they first came out with this iBuyer program, I went and got an appraisal on my house. And then I went through the motions with Zillow because I wanted to understand what my clients were doing. It was $111,000 difference. And look, fast forward 2 years, it was even more than that. But the significance of the difference that they were offering, that was without the inspection. I hadn't even went down the inspection route because I was just so mad. I was like, there's people taking this because we are not marketing on the Today Show, right? We're not out there on the radio and this program and behind home plate, but the World Series marketing. We're just not doing that. But that's where we have to lean on those relationships we have with those clients, that they trust us and they know we're going to shoot them straight. Because look, like I say, somebody could say for $1,500, I got to do it. I need every dollar. And you got to respect that decision and let them go, right? And then again, you get somebody that goes, I had one that was like $25,000. I was like, there's no chance. And they did it because for them, it was the convenience. I'm done. The house is empty. I just want to walk away. And the price sometimes is better than what they thought it would be anyway, right? I mean, they don't go to Zillow, or they know Zillow's a sham because you're doing a good job of marketing about it. That's the difference. I think it's only a matter of time before the $700 million company, Open Door, also closes their doors.
Yeah.
Because what they're not telling them is the retail price. And I think that's the consumer protection piece that's missing, is they don't come in and go, here's what the retail price of your home is worth. Here's what if you hired a realtor you could sell for. They're just like, your home is worth X. And that is simply a matter of opinion. So Zillow is not anybody's friend. If you are writing them a check, please, for the love of God, stop. It's just a bad business. You're paying. If you want to write your enemy a check or your competitor an enemy, your competitor a check, I will take donations. I have no problem taking your money, right? I mean, it's exactly what you're doing. They are your competitor. So don't think otherwise.
What about Mark Spain listings?
He's a fellow agent. I wouldn't speak of him. He runs look, somebody could sit here and say, Courtney's getting rich off of this or what. I had an agent accuse me of having a terrible work ethic and not lifting a finger. That's your opinion. Right. So people have different experiences. It's probably not with Mark. It's probably with his team, and it is what it is. So I think he offers a value proposition, and just like you do, right? Was that a good answer?
Yes.
Okay.
Patty Jackson said, can a home have a previous structural problem that has been completely repaired with peers?
Yes, ma'am.
Patty, did you hear that?
Yes, ma'am, Patty. Yep, we don't, as long as there's no, I mean, even if there's existing issues, because keep in mind, let's say my person says like on a single family, these will probably be our best fit, but like if you have a condo or a townhome, I've got investors for those too. So always try to run them past me, but this is, and I mean, we just closed one yesterday that my longtime investor, the tenant's there till June. He's buying it. It was enough of it worked for him. The numbers worked. It's a good rental. It's a good tenant. He's buying that. So, send them to me if you get those situations. I'll shoot you straight if I can do it or not. Danielle Pena sent me one and I said, look, the repairs are probably more than they're willing to do because of the age. We can't buy that. And it worked. It went in initially, but then they kind of kicked it back and said it doesn't work. She's like, thank you. I appreciate you trying. Right. I mean, that's all I can do is give it a shot. Yes, ma'am.
So on the extended temporary occupancy that you're giving, how many of those are you seeing that they're actually staying there that long? Because obviously somebody's lit a fire under them that they gotta find a house.
I honestly don't know, because I'm not their property manager. For me, I want to keep that separate. And probably for Megan, she doesn't want to deal with it. So Megan, that we do not manage their properties on the back end. I know that's another question a couple people have asked. We are not, so like on the lease stuff, we do not take those over from a property management standpoint. They have a separate company that handles that. I haven't heard of any. We haven't really, because we're usually being very realistic. If anything, like I just had one that I did with the Atlantic Communities agent. Her person was out like 2 weeks early and she's like, can I just go ahead and bring the keys back? I was like, sure, great, let's do it. So yeah, I haven't really had any, because at that point, let me be clear, at that point, if they did need more time, they would have to pay for it. And that cost is not cheap. I know Jennifer on my team had one and they were wanting to see if they could get an extra 30 because they didn't want to live in like the final construction zone. It was livable, but they didn't want, like, it was like that last bit. They wanted to kind of just turnkey it. And it was like, I want to say it was like a $250,000 house. It was like $3,200.
Wow.
And they were like, we're good, we'll move, right? It was like, if it was free, I'll take it, but it's not free, so I'm not taking it, right? So I get that.
I mean, I would think that a lot of them would be out quicker
Potentially.
because they'd have the motivation to get out there.
Right, and they've got the right agents, right? If you're the right agent and you're like, look, I got a contingency free buyer, let's go. And that's why like this time of year is a great time. Let's get those pricings, let's get those, and they can hit the early spring market hard. Right? I mean, they can get out there and go, it's not that, because the first part of the year is when we see those, I got to sell to buy, and can we, they got their condo, it'll go quick, or their house will go quick. And, I mean, we get those stories that time of year. So I think being conscientious of that and setting them up for success. Yes.
Can I just add to the Zillow thing you spoke about? So I've got a closing tomorrow for a Zillow home where we represent the buyer.
Yes.
The clear to close came last Friday. And we still don't have the final also, so they don't know how much they need a wire to actually close tomorrow.
Yeah.
So it's not just Zillow that's falling apart, it's all the affiliates that are with them.
Well, they
Their
let
closing
go
attorneys-
25% of their workforce.
Well, their closing attorney, you can't even get them on, I mean, it's an attorney's office, it's not a small office here. They're not even picking up the phone. They're not.
Who is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they, these people that have made a choice to be in business with them, it's gonna be, they're gonna have a big change, right? But no, I agree, it's a painful, we just did one with Open Door, and I mean, it was brutal. Luckily, our folks didn't have to move, but I mean, it delayed funding like 2 days for our buyer. And luckily they weren't moving out of their house because we knew it was Open Door, but yeah, it's tough, it is tough.
Yeah.
So just keep that in mind when you're on the buyer side, set expectations that this is gonna be a bumpy ride. But we're gonna get you there, right? That's nothing. You will get close. I know you'll get
No doubt
close.
about that.
Exactly. It just won't be maybe the way you'd like to see it.
Yeah.
Do you know if the agents who represent them have any leeway as far, because I have one going right now, Open Door owns it, Mark Spain is the agent.
Thank you.
And I mean, honestly, they could not be better. They gave me an extension of 10 days on closing and an extra 10 days of appraisal because my client of their lender needing it.
And that's why I say you could have that transaction just like you got him on the other side of this.
Right. And normally you can't even get anybody on the phone.
Right. But it sounds like you've got a good agent. So that might be a conversation with that agent that maybe there's a good fit for them in Keller Williams. And would you have been exceptional in a class, and I think you could have a great career at Keller Williams. Have you thought about that?
Who's your agent on that one? Lori Nichols?
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
She's fabulous.
She's been around a long time. Yeah. All right,
Yeah,
well, but again, that could be a great conversation for you.
yeah, I was
Right?
really surprised.
Right? She's Keller Williams material. She's just staying on the Keller Williams bus. Get her over here. Right? Right, Jim?
Well, absolutely, 100%, yeah.
What else? Questions? Is there any more from the online?
I got one.
Oh,
So
they
you've
got
got,
evacuated, haven't they?
I've got a question for you.
Yeah.
So you're buying a bazillion houses off all these folks.
Bazillion.
Now I've got buyers who can't find a house to buy. Is there any networking available that you know it's coming back on the market? That
Well,
might-
they typically, well, so like, always call me because I've got a pipeline of like my investor flips or stuff that'll be hitting first quarter. Like I've already started that pipeline, all that good stuff. I mean, I think you put it out to the Rawls group and Quan and the Coming Soon Facebook pages, and you start circle prospecting the neighborhoods going, hey, we have a client that's identified, doesn't need to sell, ready to go, super pre-qualified, make you an incredible offer and start about selling. It's gonna take some digging, because I think what's happened is buyers or sellers have been trained that selling's easy. It's not hard to sell. You just I want convenient. I want it easy. I want best price. I want all these things.
No
And
showings.
no show, I don't want to have to deal with showings, right? I mean, the fire that was COVID may have caused sellers to go, I don't want to show. I don't have to deal with a lot of showings. I mean, I have those clients that if I can tell them one person and done, I mean, that's the dream for them, right? And they don't care to leave money on the table because they work from home, and that's just a huge inconvenience. I mean, you've got to talk about that stuff in the retail. Really set expectations that, look, that first 2 weeks, you're going to be inconvenienced. It's not going to be, I mean, so if you got a place to go or go stay with, go. You got 3-4 dogs running around, they're going to maybe need to find a place to go during the day, right? Your life, it's going to, right? So is it worth that money? That's what you're painting them a picture of reality.
Would you take probate court?
I'll take anything. Yeah, I love it. I got 2 probates right now. Sure.
Really?
Oh, yeah, that's easy. Look, they're very
I
little.
have
I will
something in
probably
this
do.
probate.
Send it. Send me the price and see what it looks like. We'll wait.
30068.
Yeah, that would be my investor, like that Somerset house, something like that.
You have other investors who'll do townhouses and condos?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I closed one yesterday. It was a townhouse in Mapleton. Yeah, that's my longtime investor.
I know you are, believing that we're in the shift right now.
Oh, we are in it. If you don't think we're in it, keep drinking.
No,
We are in it.
all right, so how do we, my 38 here in real estate, back when you were still tiny, baby, I've seen the 50,000 listings in Metro Atlanta, which was 7-9-10.
Yeah, remember Better Homes Garden had that big billboard?
Exactly.
They tell us- I was like, this is terrible advertising. Like, all you're telling people is like, it's too many to sell yours.
So how do you see us coming out of this low inventory?
We're gonna continue to have low inventory because there's investors like that are buying for rent, because what we know is the rent rates have gone up 20+% year over year. So and what we also know is people are not as strong in confidence about the stock market. Like, we can't keep going up and up. So a lot of those guys are saying, let me get my money out of the stock market. And housing historically has always held pretty firm. I mean, think the hell we went through 2009, 10, 11, that was that market. Look how much stronger it is. It is stronger now than it was going into that. So I think that has caused a lot of those investors to go, like this particular group, their strategy is 15 years. They want to hold these houses 15 years. So my belief is, because think about it, they're making rent, like for me, if I hold that condo for 15 years at $500 profit, it pays for itself in like 10 years.
Yep.
So, and I still get my money. I mean, I get all my money back, right? So I think that's the thought process is it's long-term for them. It's not short-term. I think when they first started buying, my worry was they would flood the market with properties, but that is not, from what I understand, most of those groups' strategy. This is because what a lot of these groups do, not particularly what I'm working with, but they will buy like 150 houses in 4 different markets, right? And they'll package them and sell them to an investment group or a hedge fund or something along those lines, like a REIT, something along those lines. And they'll sell them with a guarantee for the first 5 years that you're going to make this much money guaranteed, or we write you a check. And then the remaining time that you can sell it on year 5, day 1 after, but where they're making their money is on the markup, on the management piece of it, on the acquisition cost. They mark the properties up 15-20% because they think over time that's what they'll appreciate. So there's that idea and that package, and that's happening quite a bit. And you're starting to see smaller players get into that, venture capitalists, things like that. So I think, my belief is the real estate portion will always be a good investment. I very rarely have ever met anyone that owned real estate that wasn't financially doing well, or when they sold it did better than when they bought it, right? Even when they're just dogged out houses, right? They still were making money, right? I mean, I know some of, I love when I meet a guy that's like 70 years old and he's like, still owns his properties and, he's like getting rid of them because his wife's just sick of him dealing with it. It's time to sell, right? And the kids don't want it. I like talking to that guy because he paid 60, 70,000, but he rented it. And even if he only sold it for 150, it's still a good day, right? And he's owned it all that time, depreciated it, all of that kind of stuff. So, if you're not buying investment properties, I challenge you to take 10, 12% of your income, your take home, and put it into savings over the next 12 months and see if this time next year you could pick something up. Because I think there's always good deals out there. So I'm a big proponent of buying properties. Go talk to Reed and Jeff and figure out which one's going to get you a deal on an investment loan or a second home. Buy a second home up in the mountains, rent it out. They'll pay for themselves, folks. I see it left and right. They do. Go buy you a $400,000 investment house up there. You will make your money to cover your payment, utilities, and expenses. I assure you, I see it happen left and right.
What does your crystal ball say the market's gonna look like for these poor first-time home buyers who are trying to compete with these investors who are gobbling up all the inventory, making them real, and we can't build new home construction in their price range.
Right.
So
So what's got to happen, and look, so what's got to happen is we have to start paying people a living wage. You can't expect people to live on $38,000 a year and be able to go purchase and own a home, period. It's what it boils down to. So you've got to start paying people. I mean, if you watch the news this morning, John Deere just wrote a very compelling check for their workers. Their workers went on strike. And I'm not saying unionize or no union. I don't say anything on any of it. What I'm saying is you have to pay people enough that they can live and have a family and survive, right? Right now, we've got folks out there that can barely survive. And there's this huge disparity, right?
home ownership are right. I mean, if these investors are keep gobbling them up, prices are going higher and higher.
That's correct. And the rent's going with them.
Yeah.
So then you
Cost of
see,
living
yeah,
can't keep up with
that's
that.
right. And that's where you're gonna, that's why you see people leaving the city. That's why you're seeing people leave Metro Atlanta because they can't afford to live here anymore.
And then what happens when these investors start dumping those properties?
I don't know that they're ever dumping them. They're not gonna take losses, but maybe they won't be keeping up with appreciation. They may just get that down to like below 1%. But yeah, I think if you start paying people for a living wage that's competitive, right? Yeah, and you start getting women out of the gig society and where they can have reasonable health care for their children so they can go to work and have double incomes, things like that. And maybe not 30% of what a man makes, but that's a whole nother ball. So, but anyway.
That's a different
Yeah,
Facebook.
that's a whole nother Facebook post. Yeah, but yes, Sherry.
Okay, so this is the reason why I sit in this class, guys, every time she teaches it, because it doesn't stick the first time for me, so I have to hear it a bunch of times. And I always have her on speed dial.
And Sherry also will call me and go, I got this, or I'm gonna have this agent call you because I don't think what they're doing. I'm like, it ain't. Right, because I'm in this office and my insurance is also attached to every one of you, just like mine is. So yeah.
So yeah, I have coach on speed dial when y'all kind of ask a question, and I'm not sure, I know the answer to it. But I wanna understand for myself that your sell now, move later program is a separate group of investors than what you have in your back pocket long-term. So my property I give you, you may shop it with this group or this group.
Correct. So my investor that's buying on the sell now, buy later or move later program is called the Maiden List, completely different. I have local investors and they're local, but they're not like, so I have regular investors like Shelly that knows we did a flip on a house. And so she's met them and they walk the house. I mean, she knows like, those are just guys, right? Investors. This is a corporation group that is buying properties. This is an entity. Whereas my local guys act, right? And act like they're just my guys. So, right. So that's the difference. Yeah. Yeah, so this is an entity purchasing the property. And what they do with it after, I don't really have anything involved in it.
So in any one of your things, people will buy an HOA, a condo. You said
So that'd be the regular guys. The regular, yeah, they're buying condo and HOAs. Like, yeah, they'll buy a condo if the price is right. Yeah, it's gotta make sense. I mean, in both areas, the price gotta make sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, he loves a good condo. He loves a good condo flip. That's a great day for him. And that's his niche right now, because he can't offer 284.
Right.
That, because he's flipping them. He's a fix and flip guy. And he might buy them for rental, but for the most part, he's fix and flips. Yeah. Yes, ma'am.
So you might have answered it earlier and I missed it. So if I have a he's not a first time buyer, he's a sole investor.
Yeah.
So he's at that stage now to win the deal. He wants his loan, his offer to show cash,
But he's not cash.
but it's not cash.
So you're
Meaning he wants,
misrepresenting.
meaning he wants either to do ribbon or someone else that can support him.
That would be
To
cash,
close.
because you're actually buying it under the home order ribbon.
Right.
That's different. But if he's getting a loan, you have to represent that. Now, you can waive your financing and you can waive your appraisal. And it look, that comes up differently, but it is still contingent upon someone else providing those funds on the day of closing.
You have a trick on finding these investment companies?
Do I have a tip on finding investment? The trick, get on the phone and start dialing through neighborhoods and asking people, would you consider selling if the price made sense? Or how do you intend to stay in your home in the next 24 months? And they say no, say, well, it sounds like we ought to meet. Right? That is the key. It's picking up the phone.
Where do you get those phone numbers?
Cole Realty Resource. We have that in the office, correct? Cole Realty Resource.
Or Reddick?
We do, because Michelle, I think, we have it on one of the computers. I know we do. 'Cause I saw it directly. Cole Realty Resource. The office pays for that, right? Cole.
A couple of years, yeah.
Yeah, we've got that. Yeah, so you go to Cole Realty Resource, download your call list, get on the phone and dial, folks. I can assure you, that's what I'm doing. There is no silver bullet. There is no special sauce. There is no Instagram account. There's nothing I do that is fitting me anything different. I am strategically farming neighborhoods that I believe have high turnover rates, and I am circle prospecting those neighborhoods when I put something under contract. And I call my clients and ask for business. 40% of my business is past clients, past client referrals, and sphere of influence. 40% of my business.
And I think that's the problem. People think that there's an easy button,
There-
and there is not.
This is 19 years of doing it. We did 260 transactions, and my entire team is doing the same thing. That is the way we work. I do not pay for leads. I do not pay anything. I know you don't pay Zillow, but I do not pay any leads. I'll pay you a referral fee. I mean, 9% of our business was other agents referring us business. I'll pay a referral fee all day to you because I want one when I send you something. So, 50% of my business is referral. And my farm, it's about 15%, but I've been farming it for 15, 16 years. I mean, so it's a big farm.
If you guys grew up in little towns, they're dead right now, go there and start buying real estate, because that's where people are gonna be going.
That's right, especially as we start figuring out fiber optics, work from home, and the workplace structure is going to change, because there's going to be a set of people that go into work every day because emotionally and mentally they need that. They need to see other people. They can't work from home. Because they think about that. We knew those people. There were people in this office like, wait, we're coming out of the office, And then there's going to be those people that are like, I love not working in the office because I'm able to be at home with my kids. I don't have that commute, whatever that looks like. There's going to be a restructuring of the workforce. And that's where you're going to see it. That's why you see these, mountain places. I mean, property values just skyrocketed because they started getting internet that was decent up there. Because 5 years ago, I can remember having DSL as my internet source at my mountain house, and it was pain. I couldn't hardly work. Now I got 5G. I got better internet up there than I do at my house here in East Cobb.
My godson, Greg Alexander, has his first listing appointment, and it's 30 acres. 30 acres. He's listing it for $4,200
an acre.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. I was like, 4,200 for 30 acres? I don't know where it is, but I'd throw some cash down on that. An acre, that's cheap. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing is, right.
He got it, right?
Well, he's going to see him, I think, today. Yeah.
Oh, awesome.
There you go.
Neighbor guys.
How'd he get the lead?
He dialed numbers every single day.
Yeah.
I said,
It's crazy, ain't it?
every single day, 10 people call. He said, yes, sir. I called him one day, I said, how many did you? He said, 6. I said, nope, I won't get it.
That's not gonna get it.
You got to go
No.
back to 10. He said, but Pop, nothing, go back and do it.
Yeah.
And so he goes, anyway, he and I may buy that property together.
Well, there you go. There you go.
Small
He's
bank.
already got a buyer in his back pocket. Right?
Exactly.
I mean, that's the thing. And you can say to a lot of these folks, I have a buyer. I can see what we can get you as an offer. And everybody's interested to hear an offer. That's why Zillow does well. You want to see what your home's worth, right? And if you haven't provided for your clients in the last 3 years that have purchased a home, a CMA on here's the values in your, I tell you right now, that'd be my Thanksgiving projects. And every one of them, here's a CMA, here's what the homes are worth now. Let me know if you want to chat, or I'll circle it in a big Sharpie marker and say, looks like you've got some good equity. Let me know if you want to cash out. That gets the phone to ring. That creates first quarter pipeline, right?
Well, you're helping that person then start their investment portfolio.
Yeah, because nothing says they have to take that equity and pour it into another house. They could be doing other things with that money. That could be college fund, that could be paying off debt, that could be retire. I mean, that could just go sit in a rainy day fund, right? Because they could be looking at it going, you know, that HVAC's got probably about 5 years left on it. Now roof's probably got another 7 years left on it. And if I don't sell in the next 2-3 years, that's another expense that, look, people don't necessarily pay you more money for a roof or a heating and air system. They don't. And they just
But
expect
they won't
those.
buy it if it's old.
They might not even buy it, but they expect those things to be good. They won't pay you more, right?
Right.
So that's where you can say to them, you may actually be putting about $20,000 in your pocket more over the course of the next 6 years. Questions?
Your job.
Comments?
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Let's do some deals together. Get some profit share.
So I got a script for you that I thought up with your Zillow issues.
Yeah.
So like, you know, you're with somebody and they bring up Zillow, and you take